The idea of INWIUS is to get everyone involved and diversify the investments into alternative investment opportunities with INWIUS. To work with everyone, our plan is to cater to everyone different opportunities, and we want everyone to be involved. Every investment opportunity will have a different appetite, but our ticket sizes we want to keep as low as 2 lakh rupees so that we can give every person in our country from different towns, villages and cities to be involved in alternative investments with us.
INWIUS has 5 diversified platforms, as you all know, which is more inclined towards the investors side, since we're looking to overcome the problems such as trust, transparency, there's no diligence, and projects money staying in one project itself. So our model works around this, and we try to overcome these problems for the investments. What INWIUS does is gets all of them together, so we try to diversify within one company, A. B, we look at small ticket sizes, really small ticket sizes, which enables a commoner or a person to invest in such opportunities which they don't find it easily. C, we also look at these small amounts to build trust with people so that they come with us and invest with us. So this is how, these are a few points of how INWIUS is different from others. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of INWIUS Group, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all of you. And we appreciate you taking your time off from your busy schedules and gracing this occasion. And let me run you through the agenda today. We have a panel discussion, and then we have Abhishek enlightening you about INWIUS later today in the evening. Starting with our panel, let me introduce our gracious panel to you. We have Mr. Maulik. Mr. Maulik Bhatt is a seasoned and passionate real estate professional with over 10 years experience in international property market. He is recognized by his clients and peers for a depth of knowledge of macro-micro fundamentals. Please put your hands together for Mr. Maulik Bhatt. Moving on. The next member of our panel today is Mr. Sandeep Maheshwari. He is a partner of Nirman Developers established in 1993. He completed his diploma in civil engineering and stood 7th in Maharashtra. Ever since then, he has been a very successful developer, and he has currently 5 mini townships coming up very soon. Put your hands together for Mr. Sandeep Maheshwari. The third member of our panel, Mr. Krishna Mohan Gupta, has been a part of investment industry for almost 13 years. Largely has worked with India's biggest asset management companies like Reliance Mutual Funds and HDFC Mutual Funds. He manages entire banking and private wealth channel. Please put your hands together again for Mr. Krishna Mohan Gupta. Last but certainly not the least, we have Ms. Bela Maheshwari as the last person on the panel. She represents Minudra Group, and Minudra is the leading fiduciary services provider in corporate funds and clients with worldwide been 30 years. Moving on, we have. Alright, no, we're not moving on. We are still at Ms. Bela Maheshwari, and she's known for her entrepreneurship skills and has also been awarded the Best Woman Entrepreneur by Gujarat Chamber of Commerce and Gujarat State Finance Corporation. So put your hands together again for Ms. Bela Maheshwari. Can I please have all the panel members up on stage? Mr. Maulik, I'd like you to briefly tell us about private equity real estate. Alright, so let us start. Krishna, let's start with you. Can you tell us about private equity and also about private equity in real estate sector?
I think good evening each one of you here. Whenever we talk about any asset class, whether it is real estate, equity, debt, which is being explored these days big time by all of us, And this question I keep asking to each one of you when I address such a big audience. Can someone guess what is the size of India right now in terms of all the savings put together? Whether it is real estate, gold, equity, and all formats of saving in India right now. What will be the Indian domestic saving? Can someone guess? It's a very interesting point to start with. Can someone guess? Wild guess, any one of you. What is the size of Indian domestic savings in all the formats of asset classes? So let me now answer it. 7.5 trillion. It's 7.5 trillion. It's amazing to know this number. And the size of India is around 2 trillion is what our GDP size is, effectively if I have to round off. So what we're talking about, 50% of the Indian saving is predominantly the real estate. Now, when someone is asking me such questions, the private equity, especially into the real estate sector, let me also give you a very important data point. The size of Indian real estate markets is around 12 lakh crore, which is effectively 12 trillion, especially in the Indian terms. And private equity investments, especially in the last 4 or 5 years, have been coming in India to an extent of 40 to 50,000 crore, which boils to around $6.1 billion year on year. So what, as per the Indian data in the real estate numbers which has been thrown, the real estate industry is going to grow from $5 billion effectively to $10 billion by 2022. So effectively the private equity has played a very critical role in India in the last 5-6 years predominantly. And now let me brief you, and I will take you to 2008. 2008, you will know India REIT funds, Pyramid Realty, Kotak Realty. These were the entities, HDFC Realities. These were the entities who used to do the structured deals with a lot of developers across. So whether it is Bombay, Bangalore, Pura market, and you name any bigger market India over, these were the entities who were actually raising money through we all people in different structured routes, and which is why collectively thereafter we have seen the average investment in real estate through private equity has been ranging and growing from 20,000 crore to 60,000 crore till 2017. And you will be amazed to know a few names. And the Canada pension funds, right? You will have pension funds from Singapore. Predominantly, you will see KKR, which is a no name these days. They have been coming in. Likewise, the no name Lodha, right? So Lodha had a deal the last month, wherein they got money from Pyramid Realty. Similarly, Kotak Realty has been sponsoring few of the projects across India. HDFC Realty. So private equity deals in India has grown and would be growing at the rate of 10% for the next 3 years. That's basically been the projections are. So I think this industry can grow phenomenally well. And what the change has been done by the regulation, whether we talk about RERA or the affordable housing, where the government is putting a lot of trust. So the affordable housing will grow, and a lot of foreign players are participating into the through QE route, especially into the affordable housing segment and the mid housing segment also. So which is why someone was asking me what is the size of investments what normally the mid housing projects have been looked at. So in dollar terms, it is ranging in between $40,000 to $70,000. So which basically translates into flats from units worth 48 lakhs to 78 lakhs in the mid-size segment, and affordable housing, which now is what government has spoken till 20 lakh per price of a unit, which is what they have called as affordable units. But city by city, the definition of affordable housing is changing. Bombay affordable housing needs will change. The cost what someone need to exert will be higher than what someone will be putting in Pune. So the definition is changing, and the landscape in Indian perspective is growing, which is why I think the QE side has to grow. So this is what I have to add.
Thank you, sir. So do I see any hands going up already? Thank you, sir. Can I have someone taking the mic to him, please? We can do this after the panel discussion ends, but I don't want you to forget your question, so you can write it down if you want. Alright? Moving on, the next question I want to raise is to Mr. Sandeep. Please share your overview on real estate market in India and your point of view to get a structured PE and debt equity in India.
The real estate market in India has undergone a lot of change in the past 5 years. Can I speak in Marathi?
Sir, totally.
काय गेल्या 5 वर्षात रिअल इस्टेट मार्केट खूप बदललेलं आहे. पुण्यातच नाही तर भारतभर त्यात मोठे चेंजेस आलेले आहेत. रिसेंटली आपण बघतोय की रेरा आलेला आहे, GST आलेला आहे, पण हे सगळे गोष्टी जरी सोडले तरी बेसिकली अफोर्डेबिलिटीचा जो विषय होता, एक 10 वर्षापूर्वी जो फ्लॅट एक 20 लाखाचा फ्लॅट होता तो दरवर्षी वाढत 5-6 वर्षात तो 20 लाखाचा फ्लॅट 60 लाखाचा झाला आणि लोकांना अफोर्डेबल राहिलं नाही ते. आणि सडनली आणि बिल्डर लोकांनी पण काय केलं की फ्लॅट्स विकले जात होते म्हणून फ्लॅट्स खूप प्रमाणात बांधायला चालू केले आणि सगळ्यांनी मोठे फ्लॅट बांधत ते 2 बेडरूम 800 फूट 1000 फूट 1200 1500 1800 2000 फुटाचे 2 BHKs बांधण्यात आले. आणि सडनली एक 4 वर्षापूर्वीपासून सेल मंदावला. पुण्यामध्ये जे गेल्या 3 वर्षात जर आपण फ्लॅटचं जर सेल बघितलं तर साधारणतः वर्षाला 90 ते 95 हजार फ्लॅट विकले जातात आणि गेल्या 3 वर्षात 1000-2000 फ्लॅट प्लस मायनस तेवढे विकले गेले. पण बांधण्यात येणारे जे फ्लॅट्स होते त्याचं प्रमाण जिथं सुरुवातीला लाखाच्या ठिकाणी 80,000 बांधले जायचे ते आज 2 लाख फ्लॅटवर गेलेलं आहे. प्रोडक्शन वाढल्यामुळं आपल्याला मंदी झालेली आहे की आज आपण म्हणतो मंदी आहे, पण मी पूर्वी 100 फ्लॅट बनवत होतो तर आज मी 400 बनवतोय आणि माझ्याकडे गिराईक 150-200 आहे. सो ॲक्च्युअली सेल वाढलेला आहे पण सप्लाय वाढल्यामुळं मार्केट मंदावलं. GST आल्यामुळं डिमॉनिटायझेशनमुळं ह्या सगळ्या गोष्टींमुळं गेल्या काही 6-8 महिन्यात नवीन प्रोजेक्टचा लॉन्च हा खूप कमी झालेला आहे. ओव्हरऑल जर आपण पूर्वी बघायचो की दिवाळी नवरात्रीच्या वेळेस पेपरमध्ये फक्त नवीन प्रोजेक्टचे लॉन्चचे आपल्याला ॲड दिसायचे. आता सगळीकडे फक्त ॲमेझॉन आणि फ्लिपकार्ट दिसतं. याबरोबर काय झालेलं आहे की गव्हर्नमेंटनी FSI बऱ्याच प्रमाणात वाढवलेला आहे. FSI वाढल्यामुळं ज्या प्लॉटवर पूर्वी 10,000 फुटाच्या प्लॉटवर जिथं 20,000 फूट बांधता येत होतं तिथं आज जवळजवळ 40,000-50,000 फूट बांधता येतं. त्यामुळं प्राईस राईज हे थांबलेलं आहे. माझ्याकडचं जे होल्डिंग समजा 1 लाख फूट मला बांधता येत होतं तर आज मला त्याच्यावर 2.5 लाख फूट बांधता येतं आहे. त्यामुळं प्राईस जी आहे प्राईस वाढणं थांबलेलं आहे. रादर प्राईस आता थोडं कमी पण विकलं तरी मला फायदा जास्त आहे. दुसरी गोष्ट काय झालेली आहे की GST 12% आल्यामुळं आता फ्लॅट जर विकत घ्यायचा असेल तर क्लोज टू 18% हे लोकांना त्यात इनिशियल पिरियडमध्ये इन्व्हेस्ट करावं लागतात. तर जर हे शॉर्ट टर्मसाठी जर कुणाला फ्लॅट घेऊन ट्रेड करायचा असेल तर तो आता त्याला परवडत नाही. आणि प्राईस आहे तिथं थांबल्यामुळं बरेचसे लोक आता फ्लॅट्स त्यांनी विकत घ्यायला चालू केलेले आहेत. GSTचा जो काय GSTमुळं थांबलं होतं, रेरामुळं थांबलं होतं, ह्या सगळ्या गोष्टी आता मोरलेस संपत आलेल्या आहेत आणि पुढच्या 1-2-4 महिन्यात हळूहळू सेल हा वाढत जाणार आहे आणि विल रीच अगेन जी लेवल होती 1,10,000 फ्लॅट्स पर इयर हे हा सेल परत तिथं पोचणार आहे. इक्विटीबद्दल असं आहे की प्रायव्हेट इक्विटी 5-6 वर्षापूर्वी ज्यावेळेस इक्विटी प्लेयर्स आले आणि त्यांनी आम्हाला सांगितलं की सर तुम्हाला पैसे पाहिजेत आम्ही तुम्हाला पैसे देऊ, प्रायव्हेट इक्विटी आहे, तुम्ही मोठे प्लॉट्स घ्या, मोठे स्कीम्स करा. आपल्या इथं बऱ्याच बिल्डर्सनी प्रायव्हेट इक्विटी घेतली. प्रायव्हेट इक्विटी एक्झॅक्ट काय आहे हे मलाही माहीत नव्हतं आणि बऱ्याच लोकांना माहीत नव्हतं आणि त्यात स्ट्रक्चर्ड इक्विटी आली. आता इक्विटी म्हटलं की आपल्याला वाटतं की भागीदार आहे, पण स्ट्रक्चर्ड इक्विटीमध्ये तो प्रॉफिटचाच भागीदार होता. त्यामुळे स्ट्रक्चर्ड इक्विटीमध्ये एक टाईम पिरियड होतं, एक 3 वर्षाचं पिरियड होतं, 5 वर्षाचं पिरियड होतं. त्यात ती प्रायव्हेट इक्विटी त्यांच्या फंड्सवर एक फिक्स रिटर्न ठरवून घेऊन जाणार होती. आपल्या इथं झालं काय की ओव्हरऑल मार्केट कंडिशन, सेल स्लो होणं, सँक्शन्सला वेळ लागणं, एन्व्हायरमेंट क्लिअरन्स, ह्यामुळे जे प्रोजेक्ट्स डेव्हलपर्सनी त्यावेळेस त्यांना वाटलं होतं की आम्ही आणि लोकांना वाटलं होतं फ्लॅटचं सेल खूप फास्ट होईल. त्यामुळं लोकांनी स्ट्रक्चर्ड इक्विटी घेतली, 5 वर्षात काही कमिटमेंट दिले पण 5 वर्षात तो प्रोजेक्ट 50% पण पूर्ण झाला नाही. आणि सँक्शनमध्ये काही वेळ थांबून राहिला, एन्व्हायरमेंटमध्ये थांबून राहिला आणि 5 वर्षाची ज्यावेळेस वेळ आली त्यावेळेस लोकांना त्या इक्विटी इन्व्हेस्टरला एक्झिट कंपल्सरी द्यायची होती आणि ती एक्झिट देता देता त्यांच्या नाकीनऊ आलं. त्यामुळं स्ट्रक्चर्ड इक्विटी जे 5 वर्षापूर्वी खूप लोकांनी आनंदाने घेतलं, आता स्ट्रक्चर्ड इक्विटीला लोक नाही म्हणतात. दुसरं इक्विटीचा फॉर्म आहे की प्युअर इक्विटी. प्युअर इक्विटी म्हणजे तो साधारणतः आपला भागीदार, की जे काय पिरियड लागेल त्या प्रोजेक्टला, जो काय होईल तो शेवटपर्यंत आपल्या बरोबर राहील आणि ज्यावेळेस प्रोजेक्ट संपेल त्यावेळेस तो त्याचं शेअर ऑफ प्रॉफिट घेऊन जाईल. जे छोटे प्रोजेक्ट्स आहेत ज्याचं कंप्लिशन एक विशिष्ट वेळेत होऊ शकतं, ज्यात खूप गव्हर्नमेंट क्लिअरन्सेसवर बिल्डर अवलंबून नाही आहे, तिथं स्ट्रक्चर्ड इक्विटी आपण घेऊ शकतो. कारण आपल्याला माहिती आहे एक बिल्डिंग आहे, 40 लाखची बिल्डिंग आहे, ही बिल्डिंग सँक्शन झालेली आहे, पुढच्या 2-2.5 वर्षात करायची आहे, म्हणजे 3 वर्षात डेफिनेटली संपेल, दुसरं कुठलंही त्यात सँक्शनचा भाग नाही. त्यामुळे तिथं स्ट्रक्चर्ड इक्विटी जरी घेतली, फिक्स रिटर्न जरी इन्व्हेस्टरला दिलं तरी त्यात डेव्हलपरला प्रोजेक्ट करून त्याला ते इक्विटी इन्व्हेस्टरला एक्झिट देऊन तो पैसे बनवू शकतो. पण जिथं मोठे प्रोजेक्ट्स आहेत, जिथं मल्टिपल बिल्डिंग्स आहेत, ज्यात काही क्लिअरन्सेस हे वेगवेगळ्या गव्हर्नमेंटच्या रूल्सवर डिपेंडेंट आहेत, कुठे एअरफोर्सची परमिशन आहे, कुठे ECची परमिशन आहे, एक 300-400-500 फ्लॅट्स आहेत, सेल तेवढा होत नाही आहे, त्यामुळं पिरियड हा जास्त पिरियडला जाऊ शकतो, 5 वर्ष, 7 वर्ष, 8 वर्ष. अशा ठिकाणी प्युअर इक्विटीच चालू शकते. कारण जर डिले झालं तर डेव्हलपरवर त्या मोमेंटला कुठलं प्रेशर येत नाही, कारण स्ट्रक्चर्ड इक्विटीमध्ये त्याला प्रोजेक्ट पूर्ण नसतो आणि त्या इन्व्हेस्टरला त्याला बाहेर काढायचं असतं. प्युअर इक्विटीमध्ये तो इन्व्हेस्टर त्याच्यावर राहणार. 5च्या ठिकाणी 7 वर्ष जरी झाले तर ज्या वेळेस ॲक्च्युअल प्रॉफिट होईल त्यावेळेस तो इन्व्हेस्टर पैसे घेऊन जाईल. इन्व्हेस्टरला फायदा असा आहे की त्यात जो पर्सेंटेज ऑफ प्रॉफिट होणार आहे, जे काही ॲग्री टर्म्स आहेत, त्याला त्या प्रॉफिटचा पूर्ण बेनिफिट मिळतोय. कारण फिक्स्ड रिटर्न नाही, तो ही कॅन हॅव अ रिटर्न विच इज बेटर और ही कॅन हॅव अ रिटर्न विच इज लिटल लेस. व्हेअरएज स्ट्रक्चर्ड इक्विटीमध्ये एक फिक्स्ड रिटर्न आहे आणि जो फिक्स्ड रिटर्न इन्व्हेस्टरला हवा आहे तो आज डेव्हलपर, रिअल इस्टेट मार्केटमध्ये डेव्हलपर स्ट्रक्चर्ड इक्विटीमध्ये देऊ शकत नाही. जे IRRवर लोक 5 वर्षापूर्वी काम करत होते, आज त्या IRRवर कामच होऊ शकत नाही. त्यामुळं आता छोट्या प्रोजेक्ट्सला जो काही लोक प्रायव्हेट इक्विटी घेतील ते मोस्टली इन द फॉर्म ऑफ स्ट्रक्चर्ड राहील आणि मोठ्या प्रोजेक्ट्सला मात्र ह्याच्या पुढं सगळं प्युअर इक्विटीमध्येच लोक काम करतील.
Thank you, sir. All right. Do you all have a pad and a pen on your table? आप सबके टेबल पे पेपर और पेन है? पीछे? There is a. Okay. Just keep writing down if at all you have any questions, so that you don't miss out on any of them later in the end. All right. Moving on. The next question I want to ask is to Bella. So Bella, do you see much activity in Indian investors acquiring foreign real assets? How does the Indian investor actually structure his investment into overseas real estate?
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I wish I could speak in Marathi, but sorry, I can't. I think the passion for Indians to save and for Indians to invest in real estate and bullion is centuries old. More recently, with the RBI having opened up investments outside and convertibility, at least on the revenue side, being a little much more flexible than what it was now, the government has announced that the current limit for LRS, which is called Liberal Remittance Scheme, is actually at a ceiling of $250,000 per annum per individual. With this, the ability of an individual on his own, but more so as a family, and given that we are Indians and we have like a larger family where the patriarch has maybe founded some business, made wealth, and there is a sufficient investable surplus to look at avenues for investment, not only in India but abroad, the LRS has come as a very welcome boon to look at alternate investment revenue channels outside. Having said that, first on the list would definitely be real estate. It is tangible. You're looking at various reasons why somebody would look at buying real estate, investing in bonds, looking at shares, equity, managing portfolio through some private banking firm, private bankers outside. With all this, the structures that are available to a resident Indian, and right now I'm limiting the answer only to resident Indians and limiting it only to two avenues that are available. One is the LRS, which is on the individual basis, and the second is ODI, which is the Overseas Direct Investment. Now the rule that allows an ODI is that if you have formed a a company in India, you can invest up to 400% of the net worth outside. So the various structures that allow this are either through the LRS route or the ODI route. And this is really being taken up very enthusiastically. In our experience from the group that we are across 9 odd locations in the world, we are not present in India, but we are facilitators, we are enablers to help form these kind of structures, which will eventually be the vehicle in which all these investments, stroke savings would be happening outside. The ways that this could be done, again, there are advisors in India. You will have to follow the FEMA guidelines. But when you identify a property, you could either do it through the individual channels. If you want to leverage, like for example, maybe take a mortgage, double the investable surplus that you have, you form several structures around it, and you could create a company or an entity, let's say in Singapore, you could do that in UK, you could do that in Mauritius, you could do that even for Australian property. The avenues for doing this now, more or less on a very easy manner, is something that Indians are doing much more frequently than before. So for example, if an individual is looking at a family of 4, you're looking at about $1 million that they can invest in a year. If you look at maybe 2 years in a row, you're talking 2 million, which is a decent amount for anybody to look at investing in, let's say, a UK market or sort of any other market, Australian markets. The reasons for doing this could be very many. But the routes for doing this could be creating a company. You also look at a more long-term perspective. You say that you have bought a property. Eventually, you are looking at this property for keeps or at least for a near long term. You say that you also want to now be a little more organized in your approach and probably look at a little more wealth planning around it. Take it one step further, and you also say that you're looking at succession planning for this. A family which is pooled and systematically, like you have an SIP in the mutual fund, you could also have a discipline which is annual investments into foreign currency outside, an equivalent denomination to, let's say, a US dollar, and say that I will do this systematically for 3 years or 5 years. It builds into a very recognizable corpus. And you say that now this is something which needn't come back if I don't want it to, and can just grow outside. Build on it, probably even look at some kind of a estate planning, succession planning in future. So these are the kind of tools which are now open to an average Indian. Lot of fund managers, having had this opportunity since the last about year and a half, a lot of fund managers have also realized that there's a strata of high net worth individuals may not really having either the risk appetite or opportunity to do this outside of India. I mean, very clearly India offers a lot of opportunity today. The stock exchange offers great opportunity. There are so many mutual funds. Real estate is getting far more organized. Sandeep talked about it, Krishna talked about it. But at the end of it, you want to understand how this whole thing works abroad. Your children are going abroad, you want to buy a property abroad, you want to basically look at spending your summer vacations there. This becomes a very, very attractive medium to say that you will build an asset base abroad, you will buy properties, and the mechanism for keeping a continuous sort of having a company there, having a trust form abroad will take care of your wealth which is overseas, and you could plan on wealth which is onshore. So I think that's probably the growth that I see in the last year, more so than what I saw in the last 5 years.
All right, thank you, ma'am. I have a personal question. Ever since I've received your bio, I am wondering what is the correct pronunciation of your name. Is it Bella or is it Bela?
I'm very, very familiar, very known to hearing both. If I'm outside, it is always Bella, and if it is in India, it is Bela.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Moving on, the next question I want to raise is to Mr. Maulik. Could you please enlighten us about international real estate markets and the main reason clients may want to invest outside of the domestic markets?
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Really good to see all of you here. Like Bella, I can't speak a word of Marathi. I can barely speak Hindi, mainly from subtitles I've seen on films. So unfortunately, you're stuck with English and my accent. So thank you for the question. In terms of real estate or international real estate markets, there's certainly many that people could go into. So I think the best way of tackling how one would approach is maybe to use my own example as well as that of my clients. So the profile of the investor and the motivation for a particular international market. And when identified, it's really got to be sort of a well-researched, educated, studied approach. There are many, many factors that people need to be aware of that can trip them up in the purchase. It could be to do with the actual acquisition of an asset. It could be to do with the disposal, the taxation liabilities. So just trying to keep it brief, but talking about the indicators that I would potentially look for, definitely look at the political stability, the geopolitical stability of that country or that region. It will definitely have an impact on your decision making when it comes to an investment. Definitely have a look at the economic health of that particular country, GDP growth, historical as well, to get an idea of where it's going, and of course the present. On top of that, look at demographics. These are quite important in terms of how the population is growing. Certainly from an investment perspective, you need to know not only can you income generate that property with the right kind of profile, but also have an exit as and when you are ready to exit that particular investment. Affordability is a very important point. It's not just the property price or the capital value of the property. It's about wage inflation. Where is the money coming from? Who is that next generation that are going to come in and look to purchase or rent that property? What particular sort of subsectors are enjoying increased wage inflation above and beyond the average for that particular country? Other things that one will need to look at are interest rates, because it's all about leveraging when you invest. My mantra to all my clients, and I follow the philosophy myself, is to borrow as much as possible in whichever country you're looking to invest in. Obviously, use as little of your own money as possible. Money today in your pocket is worth far more than it is tomorrow. And if banks are willing to lend and you can enjoy an amplified, I suppose, return on equity, then make the most of it. Other factors that are really important are to do with the taxation of that particular country. Definitely currency, take advantage of the currency exchange rates if they're favorable for you. Use that as a point to enter into a market and also a point to exit a market when you're ready. Other things I would imagine are finance, the availability of finance. There are certain nationalities that are restricted in certain countries, so it's really about being educated, knowing your market, knowing what you're getting yourself into, but also being intelligent about how you structure that particular investment. There are many benefits of using the right types of structures as opposed to an individual entity, for example, buying a property. Plus it gives you a lot of advice. Always get proper advice from proper professionals. And taxation, like I said, is very, very important. Don't let that catch you out. Moving on to the second point of the question, why would people look to invest internationally? Again, I will reference the clients I work with and what their appetite and why their appetite is there for international investments. I think after a certain amount of time, individuals within their home countries have accumulated a significant amount of wealth, which is great and it's very encouraging. But on that sort of creation of wealth, it will also create risk in terms of a heavy concentration of assets in a particular country and a heavy exposure to that country's currency and other indicators that could impact upon that investment. So I suppose the way to negate that risk is to manage it. And one of the ways that you can manage it is to diversify internationally, to get exposure to different risk profiles in different countries, different economic cycles. You have emerging markets versus developed and mature markets. You have the currency play a game, and more importantly, generating an income that you can hold offshore for use in the future in a strong, stable currency that could be counter-cyclical to your particular currency. So there are a whole host of reasons why people would want to invest. I think Bella mentioned as well succession planning. A lot of my clients will invest with me and will never even see their property, but they know that in 10, 15, 20 years' time, their children will be coming to the UK or whichever particular market it may be, and they'll want to study there, and they already have an asset there which can be used. And in that time, it's obviously growing in value and it's generating an income, which just provides additional security and ring fences the wealth of that particular individual. And I think that's me.
Thank you, Modi. All right. This called for a clap. All right, perfect. Moving on, my next question again is to Krishna. How do you see private wealth advisory approach in India and its advantages when India is evolving as one of the best investment destinations?
I think it's a very simple question to answer. When we talk about private wealth, I think the first thing which comes to everyone's mind is that the saving has to be managed effectively wherein wealth can be created. And time and again it has been said that a lot of people make money but very few create wealth. And why very few create wealth? Because the discipline which should be imbibed in our strategies is nothing but the simple investment philosophies and the approach which has to be followed, which can help each one of us to create wealth every year. And this is where the private wealth business is all about. Unlike what used to happen 10, 15 years before, when investment options were very limited to people all around. So people used to explore life insurance policies or the fixed deposits or fixed income instruments where interest used to be higher 10, 15 years before. And when actually we saw the alternative investments, when people thought and they saw that the return can be exponentially made better than the relative products which is available, people started coming to equity. And take my words, when people started coming to equity, the first thing which was in their mind, to spin the wealth fast. To spin the wealth fast. And that's where people actually made a lot of mistakes seriously. And I keep giving this example also. What is risk? If I don't know the subject, there is a risk. If I don't know how to ride a cycle, I can't ride. If I don't know how to walk, I can't walk. Similarly, if I don't know how to invest, I can't invest. And if I don't know how to create wealth, the reason why, the first thing when we talk about private wealth as an emergence in India, especially in last 10 years, the first thing which was started actually coming to everyone's mind that you do not go by the jazz which is being followed. Stick to the simple philosophies. And the reason why when equity started, private wealth gave the option to the people to look at the alternatives with discipline wherein actually they can create wealth. And what exactly it needs the time and patience to stick there. And in a forum like this, if I have to ask the one question, and I keep asking this question across, is that if I come to you and I ask that give me 1 crore of rupees, and I tell you that this 1 crore rupees, I will give you 20% return in 6 months, will you give me the money? How many of you will say yes? 6 months, 1 crore, 20%. Very few people have raised hand. If I say 1 crore, 20% 1 year, I think most of you will raise hand. If I say 1 crore, 20% 3 years, so what exactly is deciding? It's basically the time which is deciding your returns. The investment asset class which you want to ride will depend on the timing. And the way the globalization has shaped, the flow of information has changed the nature and the characteristic of each asset class. Whether it is real estate, whether it is gold, whether it is equity and debt. Because flow of information is actually impacting price day on day. And which is why we get jittery most of the times when things are not in our favor. So what private wealth emergence has told people to get into a structure, to get into a discipline wherein it can really put you in a right path wherein people can create wealth. And 4 or 5 years down the line, if we go back, whether it is 2008, whether we talk about 2014 when Mr. Modi era started, and the one thing which is very, very important to relate, what is one common thing in between demonetization and GST? Can someone answer it? What is one common thing in between demonetization and GST? Whatever little we understand, I hope I am talking to a very knowledgeable crowd, but it's very important to relate. What would be one common thing between demonetization and GST? See, demonetization is just nothing but suck the black currency out of the system. And how does the black currency is created? If we are not willing to pay taxes, it ultimately creates black currency. So what GST did, the GST brought a uniform platform across wherein it invites people to pay the systematic taxes across, which enlarges the base, and which is why the organized get converted, unorganized comes to organized platform, and virtually it goes. So invariably what happens, the emergence of private wealth, and the private wealth as a whole sector basically deals with options, giving you right kind of structures, and what we were talking in the beginning with the private equity, alternatives, alternate assets. This basically gives you a mean through which we can access the mass and can guide the mass to invest into the right kind of structures, whether it is alternative assets, whether it is real estate, whether it is mutual funds, wherein people can create right kind of wealth. So, and the reason why people deviate from the mean, creating excess return, what market is creating, there is always a chance of, there is always a probability of risk which is involved. But when I do it rightly, with the gestation, with the longevity of my investment, I tend to make the right kind of return for myself. So the private wealth outfits, whether it is from the private bank side, whether it is NBFCs and the NBFCs across, the approach is to guide investor right, and which is why the emergence is set to go long, and it will be one of the best channels through which the people can seek the right advice from. So this is what I have to add.
Thank you, sir. Alright, our guest is an investor. As we are continuously going through and increasing towards the end of the panel discussion, unanimously start clapping so that I know I need to take a pause, because I get confused then. Moving on to the next question, this one for Bella again, because I like to aid the rest, so Bella. What part do you see foreign real estate investment play in Indian investors' investment portfolio? And what are the benefits of structuring such investment offshore?
Real estate, like I said in the beginning, takes a very, very big pie of anybody's saving, whether it is in India and now increasingly, like I mentioned before, for buying property abroad. The reason for looking at going through structures, instead of just doing ad hoc individual investment in your own name, could be actually many. And the reasons could be social, the reason could be financial, the reason could be leveraging, the reason could be harnessing the various other opportunities available once the decision to invest abroad has happened. I'll probably go back to saying, how is wealth created? In Indian context today, clearly, if you look at the old wealth, and this was the wealth which was created by business houses, by industrial houses, their expansions, Indian MNCs going abroad, and addressal to the wealth that was created outside by wanting also to have asset base outside. This is now gotten added with the feature that you have several startups. You have India making a great story on tech. You have India making a great story on e-com apps, on several other B2C and B2B applications. So there is an example that I want to share with you. We were just in Bangalore 2 days before, and we were meeting one advisor, and he said that I've got a client who's actually made 120 million on cryptocurrency. So the whole segment on how wealth is created, how this wealth needs to be deployed, is actually just growing by leaps and bounds in India particularly. And real estate, the reason why people would look at real estate in India, the people who look at real estate abroad would be again several many. It starts with as simple and as often a need where one of the family members who is a young aspiring student is actually going for his undergrad or postgrad, and the parents want to say, look, LRS allows me 250,000, my wife can also contribute, I can approach my wealth planner and I can say, suggest a good structure to me, tell me how I can actually borrow maybe 40%, 60% more over what I can contribute, give me something which is regulation driven, compliant, I don't have to suffer any sleepless nights, but still I am able to have a property abroad. One of the ways that the banker would say is that you will need a structure, you will need a structure abroad. The second reason why people have actually started looking at this very actively is that they want to just diversify the wealth that is being created. They say that yeah, there are revenues in India, but there are also that many more revenues elsewhere in the world. And why not become a more global investor? Why not become a more sophisticated, savvy investor? Let me start off small. Let me start off with somebody who's a relative or a friend, and therefore I have an element of trust. But nevertheless, make something which is fully well understood when I file my returns back here in India. Because with common reporting standards coming across almost all the countries in the world, you will essentially want to be at ease in knowing that the structure is reported, the structure is being well managed, and you are able to also file it into your return every year when you file your tax returns. The other reason could also be that you are looking at making some reasonable and valid legal reason to create a slight security for yourself in terms of vesting your wealth and assets, let's say into an overseas entity. You don't bring it back into India unless there is an emergency or dire need, a huge amount of capital that you need maybe back in India, and the money is just lying there in terms of a saving just being piled up. Or you also have income which it generates, you're not paying tax so long as you don't repatriate it back into India. So this is, to my mind, this is something which is saying, do I want to create wealth in India? Have I created enough wealth in India? Do I want to create wealth outside also? Is it because of my children? Is it because of my own travels there? Do I want to basically own a flat and just spend summers there? Do I want to buy to let an apartment? Maybe I want to live there for 2 months in a year. I want to let it out for 10 months and maybe look at some kind of netting off to the borrowing cost that I do. The reason for doing a structure like this will be first to make it compliant, second to make it enabler to sort of leverage the funds that you already have at your disposal, to give a continuity of sorts, and I think the jurisdictions that you select, the eventual destination where your asset is going to be, will actually determine what kind of a structure you want to make. So whether it is going to be a geography like Maulik said, where there is political stability, where you see high potential for growth, where you see enough transparency in the market, or good potential, that's probably the jurisdiction that will park your funds in the end. But the structure that you create needn't necessarily be in that jurisdiction. It could actually be something where either there is not that there is a high relevance today, but nevertheless there is a good double tax treaty, or there is a tax neutrality in that jurisdiction, there is a high amount of political stability, which basically then gives you the comfort that this nest, this structure that you created, will take care of the wealth that is getting amassed in it slowly year after year.
Thank you, ma'am. Alright, moving on, this is going to be the second last question, and this one's for Maulik. So tell us, with your expertise, more about diversifying investment in property in London and your thoughts on the London market moving forward.
Thanks. The London market, or the UK market, actually is, in terms of sort of the private rented investment market, is still fairly new. It was only sort of the 80s, late 70s, 80s that there was legislative changes to tenancy law which made it more attractive for individuals to invest in this particular sector. Since then, and certainly over the last 15 years, the residential real estate sector in the UK and obviously in London has been the best performing asset class, providing total annual returns of around 10.5%. That means it's outperforming the equities markets, it's outperforming bonds, it's outperforming commercial real estate, and of course it's an inflation hedge and is ahead of inflation. The UK as well is well known as an investment destination simply because of its transparency, its ease of doing business, and more softer indicators like the multicultural society, the culture, the arts, the history that sort of props up the UK have been built over hundreds and hundreds of years, and it makes it quite unique in a lot of respects. So in terms of why people invest, that's one of the reasons amongst many, but it's also to do with the ability to leverage and fairly sort of easy to get that sort of financing in place. And from an investment perspective, it's all about leverage. Maximize your leverage as much as you can. It's also about, as Bella said, having savvy investment structures to further magnify your returns through tax mitigations and the other benefits that it may bring. In terms of sort of interest rates, it's very low at the moment. It's a really good time to borrow money. We're certainly seeing a big influx of foreign investment coupled with a currency play that foreign investors are currently enjoying. Gives them a significant advantage over domestic investors in London, but domestic investors are also very, very active. And I know there is a lot of news about Brexit, about sort of the political situation, snap elections, referendums, and it does create uncertainty. But if you think back to 2008 when we had the global financial crisis, it took London only 4 years to recover to pre-crash peak prices. That would have been the sort of deepest, hardest and fastest recession, certainly of a generation. So when people talk about Brexit and these sorts of situations that are currently occurring, I'll always reference them back to worse situations where the resilience of the market has been clearly demonstrated. I think when you're talking about investing in the UK, other indicators at the asset level that people need to look at are things like what infrastructure projects are happening, what indicators are happening in that area that will accelerate your investment above and beyond what the market dictates. And again, that goes back to research. It is about looking for indicators such as infrastructure. Off the back of this, regeneration occurs, gentrification of an area occurs, affordability, which I sort of touched upon before, and what I call the ripple effect. Of people wanting to be as close to central business districts as possible, but still be, having that affordability in place. And London certainly demonstrates, and the UK as well, demonstrate many of these indicators. If you look at the Crossrail project that's happening at the moment, it's the largest infrastructure project of its type in Europe ever. There's the HS2 link, which is connecting London and the northwest of England. There's huge government incentive in certain areas to go in. So it's really about looking at several indicators, several factors that would accelerate the investment that you look to take, and other motivations as well, like the education side of it, the excellence of the universities and the reputation of these universities. And the UK and London in particular have long been destinations where people want to send their children to continue and further their education. I think other things as well that really drive the UK are the familiarity of London, the prestige, which shouldn't be one of the points or the deciding point, but it certainly is a prestigious location to have any investment. And Commonwealth countries, India in particular, has a lot of connections. I'm a prime example of an Indian living in the UK and having ties back with India and the UK, as do my family and so many other people that I know. So there are so many motivational factors that drive the UK economy and the London economy and the wider UK. But in terms of numbers, if you look at the UK residential sector, its capitalisation rate is about £4 trillion, which is massive and completely dwarfs all other sectors. So many reasons to consider the UK. Real estate, I think, should always be part of a balanced portfolio, and further diversification, of course, occurs through the international elements and aspects of that particular investment. Thank you.
Alright, the last question is for Sandeep again. Could you please add to what Maulik said, and how would it help to diversify the portfolio by investing outside India? And how about foreigners investing in India? So please throw some light on both the topics.
$2.5 लाख RBI अलाउ करतं बाहेर न्यायला. तर नॉर्मली 4 लोकांची जर फॅमिली असेल तर लीगल मीन्सनी आपण $10 लाख म्हणजे सांगतो 6.5 कोटी रुपये बाहेर नेऊ शकतो. मौलिकनी जसं सांगितलं की लंडनचा जो मार्केट आहे, रिअल इस्टेट मार्केट, हा बऱ्यापैकी एस्टॅब्लिश्ड आणि स्टेबल मार्केट आहे. तिथले म्हणजे आज जर मला जर तिथं फ्लॅट घ्यायचा असेल, म्हणजे जसं कुणाचे मुलं आहेत तिकडं किंवा कोण रेग्युलरली जात असतात फॉर व्हेरियस रिझन, जर तिथं फ्लॅट घ्यायचा असेल तर जवळजवळ आपल्यासारखं तिथं 75% लोन होतं. आणि लोन हा इंटरनॅशनल मॉर्गेज हे साधारणतः 3-3.5% इंटरेस्टनी होतं. त्यामुळं म्हणजे एक तिथं 10 कोटीचा जरी फ्लॅट घ्यायचा असेल तर 2.5 कोटी रुपये जे मला RBI ऑलरेडी अलाउ करतं आहे, आणि उरलेलं लोन तिथं घ्यायचं. लोन इज अबाउट 3% पर ॲनमच्या इंटरेस्ट रेटवर आहे, आणि तिथं रेंटल यील्ड्स पण 3.5-4% रेंजमध्ये आहेत. त्यामुळं रेंटल यील्ड्स आणि हे स्टेबल आहेत, म्हणजे बऱ्याच वर्षापासून स्टेबल आहेत. तर ह्या रेंटल यील्डमधनं जो काही लोन आपण घेतलेला आहे दॅट कॅन बी प्रीपेड थ्रू द रेंटल यील्ड. आणि एखादा लोन घ्यायचा असेल तर ऑफकोर्स आपल्याला वर्षाला $10 लाख न्यायचे, म्हणजे 2 वर्षात जर आपण म्हटलं तर जवळजवळ 13 कोटी रुपये आपण ऑफिशियली तिथं नेऊन इन्व्हेस्ट करू शकतो. जर हे आर्बिट्रेजचं जर बघितलं तर तिथले जे इंटरेस्ट रेट्स आहेत मॉर्गेजचे आणि रेंटल यील्ड्स आहेत. आणि एक आहे की ऑलरेडी आपल्याकडे इथं जर ज्यांच्याकडं इथं ऑलरेडी बरेच प्रॉपर्टीज आहेत, तर ॲज अ ऑल्टरनेटिव्ह इन्व्हेस्टमेंट, बिकॉज RBI हॅज मेड इट सो इझी फॉर अस टू इन्व्हेस्ट अब्रॉड, आपण डेफिनेटली लंडनसारख्या ठिकाणी प्रॉपर्टी घ्यायचा विचार करू शकतो, which will work out profitable also. It's not only की तिथं आपण प्रॉपर्टी घेतली आहे नावासाठी आणि त्यातनं काही उत्पन्न होत नाही आहे. रेंटल यील्ड आणि इंटरेस्ट रेट्स बघितले तर ते फायद्याचंही होऊ शकतं. फॉरेनर्सचं इंडियामधलं इन्व्हेस्टमेंट जे होतं आहे ते सगळं मोस्टली कमर्शियल प्रॉपर्टीजमध्ये होतं आहे. ब्लॅकस्टेन ग्रुपचं इंडियामध्ये सगळ्यात मोठा पोर्टफोलिओ आहे. ऑल ओव्हर आपल्या म्हणजे पुण्यामध्ये पण असे बरेच डील्स झालेले आहेत. जेवढे कमर्शियल बिल्डिंग्स आहेत तर फॉरेन कंपनीज आर कमिंग टू इंडिया अँड दे आर इन्व्हेस्टिंग इन प्री लीज प्रॉपर्टीज. तर अँड दे आर मोठ्या म्हणजे 10 लाख स्क्वेअर फीट, 20 लाख स्क्वेअर फीट, 30 लाख स्क्वेअर फीट एवढे मोठ्या कॉम्प्लेक्सेसमध्ये त्यांनी इन्व्हेस्टमेंट केले. आणि त्यांना काय आहे की रेंटल यील्ड जे आहे म्हणजे त्यांच्या इथं जर रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट 2% आणि 1.5% आहे, तर इथलं रेंटल यील्ड त्यांना 6-7% जरी असेल तरी त्यांच्या दृष्टीने हे खूप कॅनडा पेन्शन फंड इज इन्व्हेस्टिंग अ ह्यूज अमाऊंट ऑफ मनी. त्यामुळं दे आर लुकिंग टू इन्व्हेस्ट इन कमर्शियल प्रॉपर्टी इन इंडिया. आणि आपले इंडियन जे अब्रॉड जात आहेत दे आर लुकिंग टू इन्व्हेस्ट इन रेसिडेन्शियल प्रॉपर्टी. अँड ऑफकोर्स लंडन इज वन ऑफ द फेवरेट डेस्टिनेशन अमॉंग इंडियन्स. ब्लॅक मनी and demonetization and GST, it has had a ripple effect on the entire real estate. But when you look in the long term, people need a flat, people need a house to stay in, and the number of people who don't own a flat as a percentage of the population in India is huge. Like Prime Minister Modi has a housing for all by 2022 is their mission. I don't know by when it will be completed, but there is a huge demand for housing. What had happened is the rates were going up, and people were buying flats, people were selling flats, they were making money. Because the rates went up to a very high level, suddenly it had to stop. Like anywhere where the prices go very high and they are beyond the actual what they should be, eventually there has to be a downfall. Now when the downfall will come, you saw the American mortgage thing happening, the whole housing in America got busted, I think way back in 2009 or something. India is a different market. India madhe, aaj Pune madhe we have about, let's say we are selling about 100,000 flats a year, and we have been constructing about 180,000 flats per year. That is for last year. Now what has happened is the cash is gone, RERA has come in, GST has come in. So RERA has come in, so basically now if you buy a property, you know what you are buying. It's entirely transparent, and if the developer is unable to complete the project, he is at a huge economical financial risk, and you are safe from all the assets. So because of this assurity and even GST, right now we feel that 12% GST, so it has increased the price, the indirect taxes. But what is actually going to happen is the price of the raw material that we are buying as developers and everything, those prices are actually going to go a little down. They have not happened in the last 3 months because now everybody is still unable to realize what should it be. But eventually in about 3, 4 months, 6 months time, people will understand there is a lot of competition. So the prices will stable, the construction cost will go down. So though you would be paying 12% GST on the flat sale price and everything, actually when as a developer, if my construction cost goes down, my selling price is also going to go down. So that 12% is a notional figure that you see, okay, 1 crore ka flat is, so I am paying 12 lakh in GST. But what is going to happen is that 1 crore flat will actually come in the market at 92 lakhs or something. So आपका जो 12% GST है, it will eventually be around the 3-4% service tax that we were paying. And the young crowd right now, the engineers that we are churning out, the kind of employment they are generating, the kind of salaries they have, in India everybody wants to own a house. So maybe you and me, we already have 1 or 2 houses, so maybe we will think the market is bad, so let's not buy the third house. But for a person who's taken a job, he gets a package of 6-7 lakhs a year. At the end of the year, when he sees his income tax, the benefits of income tax, he decides, okay, now let me buy my house. So he may buy a house of 25 lakhs because that is what he can afford, and the rate of interest has gone down. So now they are offering it about 8.2%. So his loan eligibility has gone up. So people are going to buy. Now what flats will get sold? It may not be those 3,000 square feet, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 square feet flats, but maybe now we are doing 2-bedroom flats of 700 square feet. So we are doing 1100 square feet, now we have come down to 700 square feet. But then at 4,000 rupees a square feet, the 2 BHK flat is costing 32 lakhs. That guy does a loan of 25 lakhs, he puts in 7 lakh of rupees, and that is his first home. So the real estate market is going to go up. If you want to invest in the Indian real estate market, residential, you have to put in your money over a longer period of time. So you can't put your money today, in 3 years you want to exit, it won't be profitable. But if you are there to stay for the longer term, it is definitely going to be profitable and it is much more secure.
Going forward, take my words, next 5 years, trading will be different from the consumption. So there is a thin line which will get bifurcated in both the segments, trading and consumption. And take my words, there are 2 kinds of segment which is evolving. One is the aspirational house. So let's say right now a house wherein I am staying, I might want to migrate to a better house. So there's an aspirational segment. Second, which is a need-based segment. So what will happen, post the RERA and all the reforms coming in, the pricing will be fair across and the consumption side of the business has to grow. And that basically will drive market in long run. And which is why prices across, and 2 days before, RBI came up with the data that housing demand in India has grown by 9%. 2 days before report. If someone has read in the Economic Times, it has grown up by 9%. So just to answer, that consumption and trading will be 2 different activities. And consumption will drive the market, not the trading one. And the separation will take the market in long run, and which is the stable market. So last 5 years, the trading market, not the consumption market. So the consumption has to drive market very well.
Like I explained sometime earlier, there is a good scope for private equity. A lot of people, like as we know, people have been lending in the private market, and right now the private market is in doldrums, so people are not really secure investing in the private market. So that is where private equity comes in play. Even if you are a small developer and you are doing a small project, I am sure these guys could work out some kind of a structured equity deal for you. Like I said, if it's a smaller project. For bigger project, you all can always come to me. Thank you.
Alright, any more questions? Right here.
Good evening, panel. Is it advisable to invest in India now or abroad, looking at the reforms happening and obviously the investment appreciation?
Who have raised the question?
Any of the panel members, because they are experts, so any of them can answer. Is it advisable to invest in Indian market, real estate market, or we have options now that we would go abroad and invest? So what would you suggest as an expert panel to be investment to be done in India or outside?
Alright. Any one of you?
If I were to answer your question, the India markets are definitely going to be good in the long term. There's a lot of commercial space coming up. I have extra money, I can put it in commercial space and everything, as well as residential space on a longer period of time. But let's say I'm already invested in all this, and now I want to split my portfolio and want to do something different, and I don't want to put all my stakes at a single place. That's where investing maybe in a property abroad comes in place.
Sorry, can I just add to that? I can't actually speak about the Indian market because I'm not familiar with it at all, but I think just in general terms, we're looking at the wider sort of globe and international markets. I think if it's a question of diversification, the time at the moment is favourable with regard to not only the exchange rates and the advantage you'll get in the currency, but also the low levels of interest rates currently available in the UK. And the willingness, I suppose, of companies or providers to provide that finance to not only British nationals but internationals as well. So it really depends on your profile, but it is a good time, I would suggest, and not just the UK generally, with the strength of the currency and the dips in other markets. As a general overview, that's what I would suggest.
I'm an Indian pro guy, so I'll talk about India first. I think the first question I would always want to raise in this forum is that why someone will invest? Investment is all about exponential returns or the return which is realistic to you, correct? The definition of return will vary from person to person. You may want to create 15%, someone will say 30%, someone will say 100%. So options will change basis your need. So you will take 20%, 15%, you'll have to figure out options basis 15-20%. Because that's your risk appetite, yes, correct? Now coming to the link, which is do we really need to invest in India or abroad? Name me 5 cities in Maharashtra which you can call developed. Now I'll relate why I'm asking this question. Name me 5 cities in Maharashtra which you can call developed. Which you can call developed. They are developed cities. Or developed, you can say developed or developing, whatever. Yeah, Nagpur, Nasik, Aurangabad, Pune, Bombay, effectively 5 cities. Going by the Indian census data, there are 500 cities in India which has a population of more than 1 lakh. It is a population of more than 1 lakh. Now, coming to the point. If you are not able to name 5 cities in Maharashtra, 29 states, 6 union territories, you can't name 60 cities all over India which you can call developed. And what we are talking about? We are talking about urbanization versus ruralization. And we are debating India growth story with the countries which all took 100 years to grow with a just 20-year growth story. Point number 1. So the long way to go to India. So what again I'm trying to talk about, do not get into the speculative mind. If you grow the ride of the structural growth, you will make return at the end of the day. And take my words, next 10 years is the age wherein we will create wealth. It is what we have to decide which asset class we would want to be. Whether we want to be in debt, whether we want to be in equity. And at the same time, we now understand the nature of asset class. We know what kind of risk we are associated with. And we know where we can create wealth. And take my words, equity, debt in combination, in whichever virtue of combination you would want to work, you will create wealth at the end of the day 5, 6 years down the line. And these 10 years are very, very crucial. And this is just the beginning. Whatever has happened in India in terms of reform, it's just the beginning. Whether you can contemplate demonetization, GST, farm loan waiver, whatever it is, whatever government has done so far. And a basic lane, 100 smart cities. What exactly is trying to talk about? What exactly is offering to world? 100 smart cities? What exactly called for? Day before yesterday, Finance Minister came and said, Bharatmala project, 32,000 road construction, 84,000 kilometer road is what we'll have to construct. Right? Infusion of bank recapitalization to an extent of 2.1 lakh crore. What will happen? Banks will have enough money to lend. Interest rates will go down. Eventually, the lending will happen. Consumerism will go up. 7th pay commission, 1 rate, 1 pension. States, HRA has been announced. HRA allowances which has been announced in India. All these state governments have announced. What effectively it will do? It will basically infuse money in the capital. It will infuse capital in the market. And what RBI is trying to protect, to keep the interest rate benign, it help people to borrow money at a lesser cost and also answer someone asked at the last, the project financing, the small financing activity at a reasonable rate will start happening, and which is why all segments of business will start growing.
I'd like to call on the stage Mrs. Reshma Shaw and Mrs. Rita Jain to please come up on stage. These are the ladies who've indirectly contributed to existence of INWIUS by giving birth to both Kaushal and Abhishek. Starting with Mr. Sandeep. Ms. Bela. And Mr. Moy. I'd also like to call up on stage Mr. Ganesh Subramanian from Dubai. He's come here and he also works with Myanmar with International Taxation Department. Thank you, sir. Thank you for gracing this occasion with your presence. Can I please hear a huge and a very loud round of applause for the esteemed panelists. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your insights and expertise with INWIUS. Thank you, sir. Throw some light on the story and the existence and the platforms of INWIUS. Over to Kaushal.
Good evening, everyone. Did you like what we did? Try to do something today differently? Hello. Namaskar. Did you like what we tried to do something different today? We wanted people to learn something. Amala, we wanted people to learn something what alternative investment is about. It's something new which is coming in India, not in a developing country like us, and we want everyone involved. So we created a vision where we wanted every single person in this country to invest in opportunities which are available only to the few. That's when INWIUS comes in.
Yeah, got demonetization, GST, RERA. Maulik's weight have changed. Vela has become more beautiful. So there are many things. So alternative investments. So INWIUS is all about alternative investments. We look at different platforms. We try to diversify your investment. Look, vega streams मध्ये टाकायला. We look to invest in startups, real estate, not only in India but outside as well, and get a structured PE. So what is structured PE now? So we'll be talking more about that with time, because we know what about debt PE is, but not structured PE. So we'll give that time and we'll talk about it on a roundtable conference soon. Then there are different investments. So with investments, I'd like to give a metaphorical example of a popcorn in a microwave. So it takes like 3-minute popcorn. When you have the popcorn, it's like flat. And when you put it for a minute, there's no noise, there's nothing coming out. It's just flat popcorn. But after a minute and a half, you start hearing the pops continuously. So investment is such that for a minute and a half could be like a span of a year, 2, 3, which is like a long-term span, which you have to be patient with. When you start hearing the pops, is the time when the returns start coming in. So you should know like how much to wait for, how much to use time, and that's where we come in. And then the popcorn's ready, so it's up to you how to exit it. Whether to have it a butter popcorn or a cheese popcorn is up to you. So that's how it is. So you've got various platforms, and the whole point of this is to diversify the investments as much you can.
We're trying to get the common people access to invest inside India and outside as well. We're trying to bridge the gap. So with INWIUS, we live to invest together, grow together, and come together and build bridges together. Thank you.
Alright, with this we come to an end, but I'd like to thank all of you all. Thank you to the investors and everybody else who's taken our time to come here. I hope you found the session very useful and informative. Personally, me being the moderator of the panel discussion, I'm definitely going home a little wiser and a little more information I've received about where to invest, how to invest, just not the money to invest, for which I'm going to reach out to them. So please move ahead for the networking session. You can go ahead and dine in outside area. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today and gracing this occasion.